Okay, so welcome to another episode of The Reluctant Leader. And I'm your host, Gajinda Bogle, aka The Reluctant Leader. And today I am joined in conversation with Shireen Noor. Now, Shireen is from Flourish with Therapy, and I'm so excited to have this conversation. But before we do have the conversation, Shireen, do you just want to introduce yourself to everyone and let everyone know who they're going to be in conversation with today?
Yes, of course. Hi, Gurjinder. Thank you so
Hello.
much for having me here. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. Yes, so I am Shireen Noor, and I consider myself to be a migrant because I was not born in the UK. I am a Muslim and I'm a South Asian. So I'm from a Pakistani ethnic heritage, and I identify as a woman. Now, I am a qualified psychotherapist, a licensed relationship therapist. I am a trustee board member of a psychotherapy training college. And my therapist calls me the chain breaker. And that is what I am. That's me. Yes.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, there's so many facets here that make you who you are. Now, I'm going to explore some of these as well because I'm really interested to know as well how your kind of business journey has been as a migrant, as a Muslim, and as a lot of this stuff that you said and some other stuff that I've picked up on as well. But I really want to take it back to the start and just really look at what made you start your business? What made you think that I can do what I'm doing for a living?
Right. I never thought that I would be a business owner. I never thought I would be a female entrepreneur. Like I said, I came to the UK when I was 16 years old. I was a young bride, and I had lots of fantasies in my head, like how my married life will be, the happily ever after. But interestingly, life had other plans for me because when I was 17, I had my first baby. And during that time, I lost my sister in a car accident. Then when I was 19, I had my second baby. And sadly, he died when he was 18 months old due to a chronic heart condition. Now, all these traumas and losses I had suffered left me in a place where I was very sad and I was and I was grieving. I mean, the world was just moving around and everyone was going around, but I felt frozen. And that's what grief feels like, and many other things that people experience. And something in me there was this flicker in me, there's this flames and burns of hope. And I looked around me and I saw my children. And I thought to myself, do my children deserve this? Do they deserve a mother who's wounded? Do they deserve a mother who's basically just surviving? Or do they deserve a mother who has got a purpose in life, who's flourishing, who's thriving, who is healed, and who doesn't continue the cycle of trauma? And that is what that thing started ticking in me. And one winter's evening, I was just sat there looking at this newspaper, and something jumped out at me, and it said, "Are you thinking of going back to college?" And I thought, oh, I wonder if I can do this, because I had dropped out of school when I was 15 years old. And I never thought I was clever to go to school or study, because in my view, my life was going to be a wife, a mother, and that was it. There was nothing more in there. And that is still not when my business plan started happening. And then I turned to my then husband and I said to him, I think I'm going to enroll in this course. His reply was, how much is it going to cost? I say, it's free. And he said, what about children? And I said to him, well, I will drop the kids to school on my way to college and I'll pick them up on my way back. Now, and he said, do what you want to do. And I did. I just did that. but it was a 2-year course, and those 2 years were very tough because you're a mother, Gurjinder, and you know what it's like with kids, right? I used to wake up at sunrise. I used to study, get the kids up, do all the stuff that needs to be done around them, be a mother, drop them to school, go to college, leave, come back, do all that, look after them and be a mother, put them to bed and sit back, study wherever I was studying. And one night I remember my cheeks were wet and there was tears streaming down my face. And I was so tired. I was so exhausted. But there was something in me that willed me to carry on. And I did pass that course. And after I passed that course, my tutor wanted to meet with me. And he said to me, "Have you thought about going to university?" And again, I said, "No, I don't think I can do it." And I did. He helped me, supported me, and I went to university. And there I met my personal tutor. She was from Pakistan. And she said to me, "What are you going to do after you do this degree?" And I said, "I might go into social work or something." I haven't thought that far, but I think social work was something I had thought, or perhaps teaching. And she said to me, "Have you thought about becoming a therapist? And you need to do your master's after this." I said to her, "No, I can't do my master's." And she said, "No, you need to do this." And then I got and did the master's. And after I did the master's, and then I spoke to my tutor, and they were like, "Okay, you need to first go into therapy, and then you have to also apply to different clinical trainings." And that's how I got into therapy. It was just by chance. I wasn't planning to go into therapy. And then once I started my training is when my sort of business plan sort of hatched. But that little seed was planted at that time. It was completely out of nowhere.
Wow. And this is still your 20s?
Yes, so I was in my 20s by the time. Yes, it was 2000.
Wow. Because I can honestly say when I was in my 20s, there is no way I would have had this focus, had this drive, had this determination. And one point you picked up on, and I think this was my driver as well. I feel my life truly began when I had my children. My purpose truly began when I had my children. And what part do you feel your children and your journey into motherhood changed the game for you a little bit, even at such a young age yourself?
You see, when I think about it, being a mother at 17 years old, it's unbelievable. When my daughter
Yes.
turned 16 and she was 17, I looked at her and I saw how innocent she was. And I thought, oh my God, I was already married and I had a child that I was responsible for. And I love my children, right? And really, I could do anything for them. But what I realized was I needed a purpose outside of that. And that came to me after all these losses I had suffered and a difficult marriage as well. But for their sake, because throughout my journey as a businesswoman and creating my business, I always kept the fact that I had to keep my children in mind and I had to work around them to create a business. Because even like when I started my practice and even when I was training to be a psychotherapist, because when you train to be a psychotherapist, you have to have your supervision. You have to work in hospitals or mental health units. And I had to do that. And a lot of these placements are in the city, in London. And I wasn't living in London. So I had to work around ways that I could get to London. Like my degree was a placement degree. And I got a placement at Royal Marsden, which is the Institute of Psychiatry, for this huge schizophrenia twin study they were doing. And I was lucky to get into it. And I got that. So it is, yeah. So it was an interest. It was, I would never go back and change it, but it was tough. It wasn't easy. But my children were always in my focus. Like even like I have to work around it, so I am there for them and do it during their school time and make sure I pick them up and I'm there at the school gate to pick them up.
And what drove you? What kept you going? Because you've already mentioned you're a migrant. You were a very young mother. You were married. You're Muslim. There's so many things that, and we're talking about, what year are we talking about? I don't want to reflect on your age here.
No, in the 90s. I went funnily enough, I was going through my base and I came through my thesis. I've done 3 theses as part of all my educational training. And the first one I completed in 2002. This was my very first one when I did my access to education. And then after that, 2006, and then the master's, which was 2007. So it was during that time. I think for me, there was always a little, I wanted to be something in me triggered, but there was always this little doubt playing. I think as a woman, as a brown woman, you suffer these little discrimination. There's a bit of oppression. There's a bit like,
That
there's always
unconscious bias, isn't it? There is
yes,
this.
you're born. When you're born, it's like an automated system is installed in you. I feel like this is the journey you have to do, and if you sort of move away from it, you're a bad mother or you're not a good wife. Even when I separated and divorced from my husband, it was like, oh, what has she done that she's gone this? But something in me was so strong, and I looked. I think for my daughter specifically, I wanted to show her that, look, if your mother can do this, and my sons as well, because now when I look at them, they're very proud to say, look at me, this is what our mother has achieved. And when they introduce me to their friends, I can see that pride in their face, that look, this is, and they feel, I said, the relief that children feel when they see their parents flourishing and having outside something, healed parents, right? It's not about I'm sorry, but a lot of South Asian parents are very much, mothers especially, are very much focused on the children. And it's good, it's not bad, but you also have to show you have a purpose outside of this, right? Of them.
And it's easier said than done, right? But how did you do that? How did you balance up having all of these kind of other things that, are pulling you in their direction, all these other responsibilities, all these other priorities of being a wife, being a mother, being a daughter-in-law, being a daughter, being all of these other things, but then also pursuing the life that you wanted to live?
Well, during the time because I started my degree, and it was during that degree that my marriage was going through, or my marriage was already rocky, and it was going through quite a rocky stage, and I had separated from my ex-husband, but there were issues going around there, and I was dealing with that. But with the children, it was juggling things. It was making sure that they were okay during this time of knowing that their parents are going to go their separate ways, and making sure they feel safe and they feel loved. And back of your head, between a mother and somebody who's also looking at doing something for herself. And it is something, and I think a lot of the time I had to unlearn what I had learned to be the way I was told I was supposed to be. I had to unlearn those ways.
Our
and
cultural conditioning, right?
And put boundaries. I remember sitting there one day and talking to my father, and he's obviously traditional, and I don't blame him. And he said to me, look, you need to get back together with your husband. And I said to him, no, you need to leave this decision to myself, to me. I make this decision. And that's the first time I had spoken up and said something. So I unlearned, and the boundaries that I placed there to say, this is my boundary, and a no, my no is a no. And I had to, and obviously there's this guilt, right? This guilt builds up because you're saying no to something that you are so by tradition. But I had to sort of
so ingrained to think differently.
I was also having my therapy at that time, which really helped me a lot because I had that space where I could clearly think and talk and somebody listening to me without judging me, if that makes sense.
Amazing. So you had your own therapy, you had your own therapist while you were training to be a therapist yourself.
Yes, it's a requirement for the training I did. It's a requirement that I need to have my own therapy. I need to have placements with, like, I work for Mind in Hackney, Mind for various minds, various charities, autistic school. you need to put in the work. I worked for a psychosis therapy project, took on patients from there, and had to rent rooms in London. And whilst I'm doing that, I also have to have supervision, and your supervisor has to be separate from your therapist. And then obviously the seminars that you have to attend. So it was a 6-year clinical training I did, which is just to get started.
That is so intense. And then if we go back to then, Shireen, if I was in a new country, if I had gone to a different country that wasn't the country I was born in, and it was on the other side of the world, so it was a polar opposite, it's east meets west, polar opposite to what I'd been brought up as and brought up with, values, everything. And I just got married and I'd had children. And what made you then, what was that pivotal moment that made you then leave the safety and security of a marriage and decide that I'm going to go and do this on my own?
See, it's interesting you say safety and security of a marriage. Now, I question that safety and security. When you start feeling that you are safer outside of that security and safety that is supposed to be there for you, right? And then when I started seeing that my children were being affected by this, and I said, what is going on here? Are my children better off being somewhere, some out of this? Because how is this affecting them, and what are they seeing? What are they going through? And how will this affect their future? Are they safe? Am I safe? And that is what compelled me to make decisions that were hard. It wasn't an easy, because I didn't know. I hadn't worked in my life. And I did go and find a job. I worked for a council. Went and found a job at a local council whilst I was doing my master's and my training, because I needed some extra income to come through for me, because I couldn't rely on other income that I was used to. Yes, I would have had probably a more financially comfortable life, but emotionally and otherwise, what was it doing to me? So I had to make a difficult choice.
And I think especially as Asians, we are conditioned to think that our marriage is for life, that we hold on to that till death do us part vow. So for you to have the courage to walk away from that and to step away from that and to demand something more for yourself and for your children is absolutely incredible. And I know we sit here and smile about it, but what actually got you through some of your darkest days to keep on going and to be the version of you that you are now?
I'm thinking back, and those were my darkest days, and that wasn't an easy journey for me. But I had to take some difficult steps and make some difficult decisions. And it was a very lonely process. But one of the things that comes to my mind is I had the support of my family. My brothers and my mother stood by me and supported me, because they had seen me for years going through things, and they saw that. And once I made the decision, they stood by me. And I could always call up and say, look, this is going on. And I always had that listening ear, or that support. It's okay, we are here. And I had to take the help of obviously the legal advice around it, and also me. Yeah, I think having my family supporting me and having my children to say, yes, you are making the right choice here, helped me to push me on, to make sure that what I was doing was not, it's right, like you said,
right
culture, it's like marriage is still you leave, did you die, right? Especially for a woman. But when your family says, no, I think you're right, what you're doing, we're supporting you. When your children say, we are supporting you. When you see your children starting to feel, yes, a bit more stable, the ground is no, you're not walking on eggshells.
Yeah. And I look at your business name now, Flourish with Therapy. And now understanding your story, I'm like, this is exactly what you done for yourself. You flourished with therapy. And is this the reason why you do what you do for others now? You support them in their therapy journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I want to, when I work with people, I want to give them a purpose in their life. I want
Mm.
women, especially South Asian women, to be able to find their voice, and like I said, we are, as women, we are so busy looking after everybody's need. Yeah. We don't want to disappoint. We want to be a good girl and do what is asked of us, requested, and we don't even question it, right? And even when we feel angry at times, what do we do with our anger? We push it down, we suppress it. And anger is a healthy emotion. There's nothing wrong with anger. Yes, rage is something else, but anger, because what is anger? It's basically you're drawing a boundary to say no. And so many women that I see, I mean, diseases like you see, like fibromyalgia, you see IBS, you see migraine, autoimmune diseases. Women suffer from these more than men. I mean, fibromyalgia is a women's disorder, right? It's a disease. It's not a disorder, but it's a disease. They suffer. What is going on there? Why is it happening? So we have to turn around and say, no, it's okay to say this is what I want to do with my life. I'm not happy here, or I'm happy here, or this is what I want to pursue.
Mm.
It's so funny, when I said I want to become a therapist. I remember a family saying, oh no, but you should become a banker. You should go into finance. And I was like, oh no, I want to become a
Yeah.
therapist. Because I always knew when I was very young. I mean, I remember my aunt asking me when I was probably 12, saying to me, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to become a nurse. And she said, oh no, you can't become a nurse. You should be a doctor. So I always knew that I wanted to go into a caring profession.
Helping people, right? Helping people. And I guess,
Yeah.
our background is all about money. It's all about having the highest paid job. And there's this kind of misconception that you can't get paid well in therapy, but you just need to go to Harley Street and see the amount of money therapists are actually making. So yes, it's their way of kind of keeping us safe and keeping us small. Now, Shireen, you mentioned women a lot, and it's really interesting because I predominantly work with women as well. But it doesn't mean that I don't work with men. And same with you. You talked about empowering South Asian females, but you also work with men, and you also do therapy with men and obviously with couples. And why is that so important for you?
Now, couples is an interesting one, because couples as well that I see, they come to me, and the way I work with couples is I want couples to hear each other and listen to the other, to see what their difficulties they are going through, right? What are their conflicts? What is the trauma, especially around women? It turns out that, I don't mean to generalize, but it does happen that men seem not listen to what the woman is saying at times. And it's not that I favor women instead of, because I have to be equal, because I'm not saying there's always one person is at fault. I mean, I always look at both equally, and it's how it works around couples therapy. But there are times when I sit there and I allow the woman to also express what she is feeling, what she is going through, her sort of frustrations sometimes in this life, where she feels like, she is doing and what is happening around her life as a woman, around her life as a mother, around her life as also a career professional person, because women now are professionals and they have careers, they are mothers, they are wives, they are daughter-in-laws, they are daughters, they are also caring for their elderly parents whilst they're caring for home. And they need to, and I provide that space so they can talk about these things. And the men are there to hear as well, that this is what my wife does, or this is what my partner does. And if, and talking, and I also see couples who are thinking about getting married and having children, and what that involves. And that is a very interesting conversation, because they're together, but they have the marriage. What will that entail and bring into the relationship? Having that, signing that document, and what it means, and what those expectations are, and each partner being curious about the other, right?
And there's so much naivety out there, isn't there? And I think media plays a role in this, because they show us this ideal of what marriage looks like, what having it all looks like. And it puts this unrealistic pressure, not just on women, but also partners, where they've got this unreal expectation of their partner, and potentially because their mum done everything, they've got this expectation of their partner who has to then do everything as well. So I think you're right, it's really important to look at both of those together.
Yes, for sure. Yes, I mean that is, we, and you get that, and it's interesting, isn't it? Like what, and especially in our culture, like moms do sort of mollycoddle their son, and when they go into a marriage, the expectation is this is what I'll get as well. And but things are changing. I see more men being more equal around, the care and with the kids and the home life. But there's still things, always there's things a woman does which a man, and I see it in my relationship as well with my partner, and things that the detail, and they only realize it when I'm not there, when I'm gone on a holiday by myself, because I like to do these things when I just go off on my own, and they're left to deal, and then they realize, right, so this is missing
Yeah.
from here. And also another thing is, your partner is, like people nowadays say, oh, my partner is everything to me, I want everything from my partner. That can be so overwhelming for the partner, any partner, whether it's your wife or a husband, right? You need something also outside of that. You need your own tribe. You need a life. I mean, I'm always advocating for a life outside of, motherhood, a life outside a couple.
Yeah.
It's necessary to have a tribe, to have your best friends, to have friends, to do things
Mm.
outside, have hobbies or purposes, because your partner, it's a lot for one partner to sort of carry all of that, isn't it?
100%, 100%. And do you think this has been an important factor for you getting to where you are now as well, is having that support system outside of your family and your partner and anyone else that actually helps you on your journey?
Yes, for sure.
Mm.
Definitely. Yes. I have my own tribe. I mean, throughout my journey, I've had I mean, mostly women. I've had various stages, like my women tribe, my people that I can go to if I'm frustrated, that I can sit there and just rant, and they know I'm ranting, and they'll just listen. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I think I'm ranting here. And they're like, no, it's fine. And they'll do the same, because we understand each other. We know
Yeah.
probably
And
it's
we
not
know
the
we need that, right? We need that outlet.
same. We need that outlet. Yeah, that's
Amazing. And Shireen, what's been some of the highlights of your business journey? What's been some of the most amazing things that have happened to you while you've been on your business journey?
I've met some amazing people. I
Mm.
have to say, I have collaborated, and I've met some colleagues, but I've also made some amazing friends. And the people I see, I mean, people are human beings. I feel like it's amazing how much human beings, their stories.
They're
I mean,
fascinating,
sometimes
aren't
you
they?
think yes. And every time I think I've heard it all. And then somebody comes along and tells me their story. And I'm
Yeah.
like, how have you, I mean, you've done, and I tell people sometimes, I say, you've been to the wars, haven't you?
Mm.
And they look at me, and it's the first time that they see that somebody's actually listened, and they validate
Mm.
what I've been through, and also see them shifting those little changes. I remember when I first started, I used to work at Hackney at Mind, and I saw this young man once, and when he came to me, he had his hoodie on. I couldn't see his face, and he used to sit held up like this. As he started speaking, he opened up. the hood came down. And once he came and he sat back and lay back, that is for me, I smiled. The face, the expression in the face changes. The face is lights up. You can see it in the body language. Even if you don't hear it, you see it. And that is, I love that.
Oh,
That
I
is what
love
I love.
it too. Yeah. And you can really see it. Your face has literally lit up just even talking about it. So, those are some amazing things that have happened really well. But what about the challenges? What have been some of your most challenging moments in business? And how have you actually got over those?
I don't know if they are challenges, but I think it's you learn from these, right? Like mistakes are never mistakes to you because you always learn from something, but I won't call them mistakes. Now the challenges have been like when you start a business, it yourself, you do risk, right? Because everything is on you, right? You have to make it work. For example, like I told you with starting a therapy business, you have to, and you all, I mean, I'll just say it, you don't make lots of money when you first start off. And with therapy as well, you're not making like millions of pounds or something. You're making money, but and you're a business person. But the challenges for me have been, to build something, and the person I am, I'll just head straight into something, and then as I'm sort of drowning or half doggy paddling, like find my way around. That's how I do things. I'm not a very, there's some people who very strategize things and think through things and have a business plan. I'm not like that. I make things work, but I have to be in it to make it work. So like I had to rent room. When I said I'm going to have my own practice, I had to rent rooms. And I was
Mm.
paying for them from my own pocket because I was still getting my experience. COVID was a huge learning curve
Wow.
because
Yes.
overnight, it worked out for me in the end but when I was seeing people face to face, and I had to immediately turn that into everything going online. That was a massive, I think everyone sort of learned from that, and people were unlucky or some people were lucky. But so that was a huge challenge. And also finding a way of working when you're working with somebody. Now we're doing it fine, right? But if you think about it back then, when you're seeing somebody face to face and then all of a sudden you're seeing them on a screen and working therapeutically with them, you have
Changes
to
the
sort of
dynamic.
change. I remember those days I used to be exhausting because you have to fully, you looking at somebody, and by the time you would finish, I remember it used to be quite tiring. But it's sort of, you sort of go into it, and you make it work and get used to it, and the other person gets used to it as well. And now, it worked out really well because now it's like international, right? People overseas and wherever, they can contact you, and it's opened up a lot of clientele for a lot of people. um yeah I think those are the two main ones. And
Mm.
also as a mother, it's juggling things, right? You are, because the reason that I wanted my own practice was so I could have my own hours. I could dictate what hours I want to do, the flexibility of it, and working around it was challenging. Like,
Mm.
for example, I was working my job. I was working a full-time job, and then I would get home, and I would pick up the kids from school, or make sure I would get home to make sure they have dinner, and then I would leave in the evening to work, to see my clients in the early
Wow.
days when I was still gathering. So that was tiring. I remember driving into London and back again at like 10 in the evening or something. So, those are challenges, but it makes you who you are. It gives you that experience.
And it's
And
those
you,
building blocks that build the dream that you are living now, right? It's the
oh,
steps you have to take to get to where you wanna be.
yes. Yeah. And
'Cause the
it's
easy
always
route would have
exciting,
been
always
to stay
learning.
with the day job, right? The easy
Yeah,
route is stay with the day job, work until you're in your 60s, and then just get your pension, but obviously
exactly.
you wanted something different.
Yes. But I did that. I was working. And then at one point, I had to make a decision. I
Mm.
fully go into my practice and make this my thing, because and take that risk, because I was used to that paycheck at the end of the month, like you said, the pension, the end of the month, the paycheck, and you start getting comfortable in it. And I had to make a choice. Okay, do I now resign from this and then focus fully on what I'm doing? Because that has always been my plan. But I've got distracted now because I've got this job that pays me money and I'm bringing that every month. I know this money is coming in. And one day, I remember I couldn't sleep in the night, and we were on holiday somewhere, but we were by the coast, and I remember waking up very early in the morning and going for a walk along the beach, and I was sitting there as the sun was rising, and thinking about my business and what I need to do, and like that, I just made up my mind. I said, "Oh, I'm going to take this risk, and I'm going to focus fully on this. This is going to be what I focus on, and I'm going to resign from this job."
Amazing. And look where you are now.
Yes, and it's
And
always learning, always learning, always
always learning,
learning.
yes, always learning, always somewhere else to go. And then Shireen, if we look at migrant women, if we look at women in situations that they don't want to be in, if we look at women who want better for their life, who want better for the world around them, what advice would you give them that you wish you may have heard when you were that person?
You can do it. You have the power within you. You are strong. You, as a woman, you carry little humans in you. You go through the labor and the pain to have that little person, right? Men can't do it. So you are so powerful. Always remember that. And there is always there. When I was at that stage, I didn't have communities. Now there are so many communities out there.
So
The
much.
South Asian networks, there's so much help out there. The internet has just opened so much. There is always help out there. You have to find your tribe, your community. There will always be someone, that one person. Like, I found these people along the way who I least expected. Like, they might have been my tutors, or there might have been different women who gave me that, motivation, right? And also motivation. It's an interesting one, the motivation, but you have to be consistent. Yeah, there is always someone. If you go out there, you will find it. If you just ask the universe will give you back. Remember that. And that is what I always tell myself. You are strong, but also put it out there in the universe. And I know it's a bit like, okay, that's a bit strange thing she's saying, but I really strongly believe in that. You put it yourself out there and the universe gives it back to you.
And I truly believe that. And I think so will a lot of our audience as well. Shireen, honestly, this has been an absolutely amazing conversation. And I actually know you and I've met you multiple times, but it's
Yes.
been amazing to have a very different conversation with you, which has been
Yes.
really lovely. Now, if there are people listening and they obviously want to get in contact with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Well, I see you've got my email there, inquiries@shireennoor.com. And then you've got @Flourish with Therapy, which is my Instagram. The best way is to email me, because if you call me, I'm usually in a meeting or with a client. I will return your call, but I usually will return it after probably as quickly as I would like to. And just, I think emails is the best way to contact me. And do follow me on Flourish with Therapy, because I'm always doing some videos and some stuff. I put educational stuff around therapy and stuff. But yes.
Amazing. And I guess my leaving thought is don't suffer in silence. If there
No.
is something going on, if there is something you want to achieve, like Shireen said as well, if nothing else, put it out to the universe and allow the universe to guide you with the right guides, allow the right guides to show up in your life so that you can move forward or move through whatever it is that you're going through.
For sure. Yeah. And reach out to the community. There's Facebook, there's Instagram. There is so much now you
There's
have.
so much
Just
now. There is
reach
so
out.
much.
There's so many networks. There's so many women's networks. There's so much out there. Just reach out. There will be one person who will respond to you, who will reply. And there are so many charities and places that you can get help. So just don't suffer in silence. Like I said, don't just survive. Flourish, live your life, enjoy your life.
Flourish and thrive. Yes, I
Flourish.
love it. Thank you so much, Shireen. Honestly, it's been an absolutely incredible conversation. And I hope anyone who's listening has enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed having it. And yes, thank you so much. So I am Gajinda Bogle, your host, reluctant leader, and Shireen Noor has been our guest today. So thank you so much, Shireen. And I
Thank
shall
you so
hopefully
much
see
for having me.
you.
I love the conversation.
You're
It was,
welcome.
the energy is amazing.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.